What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we're returning to the White Dingo team as we return to Australia in Mobile Suit Gundam Ground Zero Rise from the Ashes. Last time, the White Dingo team cleared out some enemy Zaku's to allow the Red Possum team to pass through the Australian front safely while allowing Dr. Grant to continue their survey on the land. This time, EFF will take back a base close to Alice Springs and find themselves some kangaroo meat. They can finally push to take Alice Springs itself. So let's get into this. Before we start, we didn't properly point out the Zaku half cannon, so let's break that down. The MS-06CK Zaku half cannon is a mid-range artillery mobile suit that was Zeon's initial response once they got wind that EFF was starting to roll out their mobile suits. This is essentially an MS-06C with an MS-06K backpack, thus the naming convention. The backpack can be removed and become a regular MS-06C. It is equipped with a 180mm cannon, a 2-tube missile pod, a 120mm machine gun, a Gatling gun, and a Heat Hawk. November 24th, UC0079, Zeon Forces, Derby Base, Australia. Uriah Heep and Allison Hannigan have hijacked a transport truck. Uriah notes that it smells like fish. We flash back to 1 week prior. Allison brings Uriah to Captain Walter as requested. He wants Uriah to be the commander of the 8 major transport units across the front. This is aptly named the Octopus Team. Walter says that this team doesn't exist on paper. He then says that paper burns, but the computers at HQ do not burn so well. He believes that he is just a humble commander of a transport unit and isn't worthy of the position. He tells Walter that the Zabi family doesn't like him. The commander says that is exactly why he wants him on this mission. He can't fall any lower in the eyes of the Zabis, and he has nothing to lose. Walter says, unofficially, I think the Zabi family won't be much of an issue much longer. Uriah says that he is sure the Zabis would be greatly offended by his acceptance, so he takes on the role. Allison will act as his adjunct, which is a staff officer who helps a commanding officer with administrative affairs. As things begin to get tighter and tighter for Zeon post-Odessa, they must resort to these underground transport methods. Back in the present, they have acquired goods that snuck through the Panama Canal. Allison wonders if she should direct the handoff of the operations. Uriah says that he will let the little lady handle it. At Zeon Forces Adelaide Base, Railway Battalion HQ, Lieutenant Maya Koizuma is informed that they suspect a Federation offensive and to move out. They are cutting it close. They head to the train yard. Meanwhile, in Rainbow Valley, at the remains of the former Zeon camp, Bob Rock is fixing up Mike's mobile suit. He calls his suit Jacqueline after a famous DJ. Bob suggests that he drop the name because everyone uses it. He wonders where he got that beer. They raided the mess hall and found it. Dr. Grant is eating a bland and tasteless MRE when Plo comes behind her, scaring her and causing her to fall over. She tells Plo that she hesitated while on the battlefield. MREs. He says that is barely for human consumption and takes them to the mess hall they just captured. Anita is mad that Mike is telling people about the mess hall as it seems to be stocked and they want it to themselves. They found a stockpile of meat, so they just started grilling away. It was labeled Aussie meat. Lung gets down with it no problem. He says it tastes like chicken. Once Dr. Grant takes a bite, she instantly realizes it is crocodile meat. She says that the meat that looks a little tougher is probably kangaroo. They forget that the doctor grew up in Australia. Suddenly, the rest of the squad comes in and begins raiding the place looking for beer. Dr. Grant wonders where the commander is. Meanwhile, inside of the Medea, Rayer is awaiting a call from his commanding officer. He believes that their next mission is to take on Alice Springs, or rather, it will be to support the Red Possum team who will be handling direct assault. There are pillboxes in the north and south that are preventing Red Possums from their full-on assault. After they are destroyed, they must sow chaos amongst the enemy. Rayer thinks that the commander is hiding something. He hesitates and then says that what he is about to hear won't be in the mission plan. The White Dingo's goal is to minimize civilian damage. They intend to take the base and use it as a base of operation for themselves. And for that to happen, the civilian's life must not be affected. He must take out Zeon without killing civilians, which sounds like an impossibility. He wants the restrictions on his team lifted, but he is denied this request. Before he signs off, he asks why the geologist is hanging around with them during all of the missions. He says that he will soon know in good time. Captain Stanley is raising some red flags. They aren't being told everything about the mission, and it doesn't sit right with Rayer. He heads back to the team and breaks up the fun as they gather for a meeting. Lieutenant Visch Donahue is prepping his team in Alice Springs. He goes over to his goof. On his leg is etched the phrase, "Enjoy war, I am afraid of peace." He laughs and tells his men to be on the lookout for saboteurs. 1 hour prior, Visch had his final mission briefing with Commanding Officer Exposition Machine. He tells them that EFF must not know their true intentions, while also preventing any civilians from getting involved. Both are trying to minimize civilian casualties. He wishes him good luck and refers to his nickname on the battlefield, Uncle Donahue. The base commander, Lieutenant Glock, comes over to Visch and the two butt heads. He tells Visch not to go off the book like he did in Rainbow Valley. They suddenly get a fax from the headquarters. A fax? A fax? Yes, this is also how Maya Koizuma was informed to move out towards Melbourne. In a world where Minovsky particle dispersion exists, the best form of communication for Zeon's Underground Railroad is indeed the fax. The resistance has blown up the main route, and the train has been delayed. This isn't looking good for them. The White Dingo team deploys. Anita and Dr. Grant are in the hover truck. Anita says there is no mobile suit activity so far. The intel they received from Rainbow Valley was a little off. He wonders if there is an irregularity within White Dingo. Mike begins complaining about their routes being limited, so they should confuse them before pressing in. He suggests they distract the town by taking out their water tower. However, since the colony dropped, water has been quite scarce, and they wouldn't wish that evil on their enemy. However, rather than using a water tower, they will just have one sucker go out and distract the town. Anita says, "Thanks, Mike, for opening your mouth and volunteering." He now wishes that he never complained in the first place. Mike gets in position with the Franz EFKAR 98K 75mm sniper rifle. This is a bolt-action rifle with 5 shell rounds. This gun sucks and gets jammed quite easily, but it is great for preemptive strikes like the one Mike is about to make. He aims at one of the pillboxes and fires. It is a direct hit. Mike goes in while Anita begins jamming communications. Visch is informed that EFF is attacking the southern pillboxes head-on. He doesn't feel right about this head-on attack. He thinks it is another diversion. Glock is requesting permission to sortie. Visch tells him to stand by. He tells his men to contact Koizumi immediately as this place is about to become a battlefield. Meanwhile, Koizumi and the train have finally made their departure after their delay. That is when she is informed that Alice Springs is under attack. She tries to get a hold of Visch and have the Thunderclap team protect the city until they could pass through. Meanwhile, Glock is frustrated by Visch and wants to sortie in the mobile suit. He tells his team to send out the Gallop. He thinks that Visch is a coward and unwilling to attack. Visch preps for launch. Rayer and the team are hiding, waiting for Mike and Anita to cause chaos. They plan on following the train tracks up towards the city. Lung overhears a transmission that a Zeon transport train is passing through here. He thinks that they should destroy the tracks to be safe. Rayer tells them that they must minimize damage. When they take over the city, surely EFF will use the train system as well. They decide to focus on taking the city. The team moves out. Watching them from a distance is Visch. Lung and Rayer pass by a narrow street. Minovsky particle density begins to rise. As Lung wonders if this is a failed diversion, he accidentally crushes a car. There's going to be one guy who wakes up with his car destroyed and has a really bad day. Surviving a colony drop is one thing. Crushing a man's car, that's the last straw. They are suddenly attacked by a Zaku. Rayer throws his shield while Lung attacks from behind. Another pops out of the alley and points their bazooka. Rayer shoots the bazooka out of their hand, and the Zaku hides behind the building. Damage is starting to add up, and civilians are beginning to panic. Suddenly, a smoke goes up around them. Gok and his GOG squad surround the gyms. They begin attacking with no remorse for the civilians. Rubble almost falls on one kid, but Visch comes in and protects him. The kid knows it is Uncle Donahue. Rayer and Glock engage in close-quarter combat. From the distance, Mike tries to get a shot on the team, but he risks destroying the town. Rayer gets out of his gym and tries to talk to Glock, but he goes in to attack with his Heat Hawk. Visch uses the Heat Wire. This is specific to Visch's goof and is also found in various goof customs. This is essentially a thinner and stronger heat rod with a magnetic grappler. Visch tells everyone to cease fire. Rather than fight with the White Dingoes, Visch decides to open up about the city. He tells them that the destruction of the water towers would be a death sentence to this city. He also wants to minimize civilian casualties. Because of this, they will withdraw from Alice Springs and give the city to EFF unscathed. Glock begins yelling and threatening to attack. Visch says that if they do that, they will have to go through him. Glock says that he will inform HQ of his actions today and retreat with his team. Both Visch and Rayer stare at each other. Suddenly, Koizumi's train passes by Alice Springs, making it safely through the city. Visch smiles. This is all he was concerned about. As long as this final shipment made it through, EFF can now have the city. Visch hopes that the two meet again, but hopefully during peacetime. The goof makes its leave. And that will do it for this episode. The team is making progress in reclaiming Australia, but we are still unsure of what this secret weapon that Zeon has up their sleeves. Next time, EFF now has full control over Alice Springs, and to the victor comes the spoils. One of the spoils just so happens to be a BOA XBR-79 beam rifle used by Grandpa Gundam. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember that sometimes it doesn't have to come down to a fight. Peace.